Alrighty, we're continuing Christmas in July, snow/Christmas themed shark movies. Today's is Piranha Sharks. I mean, you wouldn't have really expected from the title that it is a Christmassy movie, but I can assure you, I've done my research. It is a Christmas type movie. And, well, it's interesting. Let's just get right into it.
So Piranha Sharks takes place during the Christmas holiday and stars a number of characters, but the general gist is that these experimental piranha sharks are sold to the market of New York and only New York for some reason. While they seem like fine fish to keep in your house as a pet, it turns out the sharks multiply like crazy, becoming bigger and bigger, and are generally causing havoc, and there seems to be no real weakness to them, so it's up to our characters to put an end to this. The story in this movie is pretty wild, I'm not gonna lie. It starts out basic enough but quickly takes some interesting turns that I did not expect. The way it progresses just gets wackier and wackier, really just going all over the place, and part of it feels almost like Ghostbusters, while the other part feels like Sharknado, and then its own wild part, just all over the place. While the plot might not seem totally out there when explained like this, the characters are really out there in this movie. There's a lot of characters in this movie, especially for a shark movie, and they all have personality. I might almost say it might be a little too ambitious for a shark movie to have this many fleshed out characters, but the movie is able to actually decently flesh them out and make them all mostly memorable. Everyone has some weird, wacky charm to them, and that's how they're able to make them interesting, and the movie clearly does not take itself very seriously, and because of that, I can actually appreciate the movie more. It not taking itself seriously allows the dialogue to flow a lot more naturally, and the movie is just a lot more lighthearted because of it. The characters easily save the movie, and they're just so weird. There is not a single normal human being here, to be honest, and that just makes it all the better. Surprisingly, despite them introducing a number of subplots and characters, the movie is actually able to keep track of them all and give them all even a slightly decent payoff, and does not just drop storylines for whatever reason like most of these movies. It actually follows through on the story and gives a conclusion. Even some of the more minor characters, like the rock star, even he gets a conclusion. It was just nice to see them actually attempt to have some cohesion and conclusion. My final opinion on the story is that, as weird as it is, it's actually good, and above all else, funny. The movie is classified as a comedy, and with good reason, because the movie is funny. Of course, humor is subjective, but for me at least, I found it funny. Anyway, on to the sharks. The sharks are actually the weakest part of the movie, I will say. They aren't that great, to be honest, for a variety of reasons. The screen time is very inconsistent, as they briefly show up in the beginning, barely in the middle, and then a bunch at the end. But for the first 2/3 of the movie, they're barely in the movie, unfortunately. It's very sparse and inconsistent. Sure, they are talking about them a bit, but actually seeing them? No, you don't actually see them too often, so they aren't on screen that often. I will say whenever they are on screen, though, they do something, though. There is never any useless shots of them, and every time they show up, it is to advance the plot or kill someone. So they never just show up to show up. So at least the scenes they're in are even a little meaningful, but in terms of screen time, it's not that good. The CGI, not very good on them either. It's choppy, the sharks are very inconsistent with their size, as they change size actually almost every single scene. I think it's because they actually grow in the story as well, but it was just really odd. At least when they show up at the end, there is a lot of them. I can give it that. The kills in the movie were actually quite well done, and was definitely the best part of the sharks. In the beginning, and for one other scene, the sharks are actually so small they can go inside people, and they kill people from the inside and eat them, which is pretty unique. I don't think I've seen that one done before. So those are unique, and also when there's just a ton of them flying into the air trying to kill people and chomp on them, decently unique as well. But there isn't very many kills in the movie either. There's maybe like half a dozen, to be honest. In fact, more piranha sharks die than people in this movie, so that's different. Despite the sharks not being in most of the movie, and despite there not being many deaths, I can say everything here is unique, and they go for a more quality versus quantity situation, at least. If only the CGI was better. But surprisingly, I'm not actually totally pissed that the sharks are not in a majority of this movie. And why is that? It's because the acting actually saves the movie. The acting in combination with the story save the movie as a whole, as if it was not for them, it would not be a very good movie. However, that is not the case because of the acting. It's just so off the walls, weird, zany, corny dialogue with decent delivery that it actually makes the movie a lot more endearing, funny, and all around watchable. There's nobody here that's bad, and everyone is at least decent, and it's actually pretty good acting considering the type of indie movie this is. This isn't even a sci-fi movie. Even Al Snow the wrestler shows up at one point. I couldn't tell you why. The acting is actually just good. I know, what a novel concept. Everyone is able to relay a decent amount of emotion, and everyone just keeps a totally straight face despite that there's a bunch of crap going on that makes little to no sense. If the acting was not as good, this movie would probably be a lot more worse. I can confidently say that. So this is a really weird shark movie. It's definitely one where I came for the sharks, but ended up staying for the people. Surprisingly, the people are the best part of the movie, not the sharks. I guess in that aspect, it's not a great shark movie, but it's not a bad movie overall. Despite the questionable screen time and CGI, there are decent kills in the movie, and I actually still had a decent level of enjoyment. It was just so out there, and the characters were so weird, and the entire story was just borderline nonsense, to the point where I actually enjoy the movie regardless of how little sharks there actually are. Yeah, I don't have exactly a ton to say about this movie because it's kind of hard for me to recreate or explain why the movie's even decent. It doesn't take itself seriously, it is just too wild and too funny. But this is a review, this is the shark scale, so I do have to knock it down a few points for the lack of sharks and its few other negatives. So with that in mind, I think it goes right in the middle and gets a solid 3 out of 5 on the shark scale, with the ranking of average. I can say if you're looking for a weird, and I mean weird, shark movie that is on YouTube, I might add, link in the description, then this will be the one for you to watch. But everyone else, I'm not so sure if they'll like it, just because of how weird it was. I'm surprised it hasn't honestly become like a cult classic, because it's really weird. It's an odd Christmas movie, that's for sure. Still, hope you guys liked the video. You guys already know what to do. Have a good Christmas, whenever it is. See ya.